Welcome to Davidtree's Love Who You Are podcast. If you're new to Davidtree, we certify meditation teachers and offer online courses in yoga for anxiety and teaching yoga to children. Davidtree's been a leader in the wellness industry for almost 30 years. I'm your host, Candice Lapointe. Join me as I connect with insightful guests who share the surprising places their meditation, yoga, and wellness journey have taken them. Navigating the human experience can feel perilous at times, but our guests share how embracing their radical uniqueness and applying self-compassion can change everything. Hello, beautiful you. Welcome back to the Love Who You Are podcast. Being in the wellness world means we're constantly presented with trendy health routines and quick fixes promising fast results. I can't be the only one bombarded with this stuff on my social media feed. Behind all the hype, many of these practices actually keep us from the deeper healing we're truly looking for. They're tricky. I know I've fallen into the trap. It's hard not to. In this episode, Tamika Schilbe and Carolyn Burke share why so many health trends fall short and how to spot the difference between a marketing scheme and something with real benefits. They've been studying and implementing the medical medium protocols for almost a decade now, and like the hundreds of thousands of other people who follow Anthony William, their healing experiences have been profound. They share what it's like to get played over and over again by the wellness industry and what happens when we stop dabbling and start supporting our bodies with simple living foods. We get into the specific risks of fads like chlorella, apple cider vinegar, bone broth, fermented foods, cold plunges, multivitamins, fish oil, microdosing, and so much more. This conversation is all about building discernment, stepping away from the harmful shortcuts, and choosing practices that nurture true healing and vitality. I hope you enjoy this conversation as much as I did. Happy listening. Hi, you two. How are you both?
So good to see you, Candice.
Always a pleasure.
It does. It really does feel good when we are together, the three of us. And we are together today to talk about some really important stuff. We are going to be chatting about, drumroll please,
Dun, dun, dun.
health fads and problematic health trends. This stuff is pretty important right now. Can you guys take the lead on what you think a health fad is? What is a health fad?
Yeah, I can tell you what it isn't. It isn't an answer to a health condition. So I think one of the reasons we wanted to talk about this today is because so many people are struggling with so many different health conditions and symptoms and all kinds of different things. They're dealing with brain fog or hormonal issues or autoimmune, which we know is not what we think it is, but they're dealing with skin issues, reproductive challenges, PMS, thyroid stuff, gut problems, digestive issues. The list goes on and on and on. And what happens is that when you're in that vulnerable place, which I definitely have been in that vulnerable place and seeking something to help me through it, that something pops up in the culture that says, guess what? This is going to solve all your problems. And you get so excited. Okay, maybe this is going to be the ticket. This is going to be the thing that gets me through my problems. And so, maybe some health fads are good. Like, I remember when it came around, like eat lots of leafy greens. That actually came from Anthony William, medical medium. And that's a good fad. That's a great trend because it's so healing and so helpful to health symptoms and conditions. But a lot of the ones I think probably that we're going to all talk about today are just diversions. They're not answers to problems. They don't help you. In fact, unfortunately, why this is such a big issue isn't just that they're nothing. It's actually that they hinder healing. They prevent healing. They make the existing problem worse. And so we wanted to kind of highlight all of that because from a medical medium perspective, which is the perspective that we're going to be focusing on today, it is absolutely a problem in our culture. We just need to be aware.
And I think what it does is those health fads, we jump on these bandwagons and it never is addressing why you have the issue, the health problem in the first place. So like you said, it's taking you on a side road. And some people can be on these health fads and trends for like 10 years and get worse and not realize that that's perhaps what's contributing to them getting worse is the particular thing that they might be doing. Mm-hmm.
So interesting. And so that leads me to my next question here, which is what signs tell you that a trend is a gimmick rather than being beneficial? Why is it a gimmick versus being beneficial?
Marketing, you'll start to see all of a sudden a trend come in and it's so much energy is being put into this and you're being fed information to market it. I often have to back up and say, what's all this energy about? Why is that happening? Often it's to lead us astray, quite frankly.
Amazing. And I've heard you guys talk about this point before, and that is in relation to Anthony William and how he isn't backed by any sort of big companies and how this is information that comes through without any sort of monetary value. I think, Tamika, you've mentioned that he really only maybe profits from his books that he puts out there. And does this solidify your reasoning for why you believe that the medical medium protocols and Anthony William, maybe it isn't just a health trend?
Yeah, I mean, Anthony is working 24/7 for all of us. So what you'll see is other people that are out there in the health industry that are, I mean, not that he doesn't get paid for his books and maybe juicers and I don't know, there might be other things, but he doesn't have to put himself out there like all day, every day to help us. Like he really doesn't have to. There's no kickback for that. There's no paywall behind his courses. There's no multi-level marketing profit scheme. It's available to anyone and everyone who needs it, and it's available for free. So I think that's one of the things that's quite obvious. But the biggest thing I would have to say more than anything is that as someone who has been down the road of having health issues from a young age and tried things over 3 decades, and nothing helped my symptoms, his work is the only thing that has helped my symptoms. So it's like, we all have this laboratory inside of our bodies, and that's where the science happens, and you test it out. You don't dabble in a whole bunch of different things. You just test out his theories and stick with those, and you'll find that you will have a reduction in your symptoms. Depending on how sick you are, if you're really, really sick, it might take a little bit longer, but I know tons of people who have had a symptom or condition and they're on celery juice, for example, or they do one of the cleanses and they have results within weeks. And so this doesn't exist out there. This actually doesn't exist anywhere else. I'm not saying there aren't good naturopaths and other health practitioners who are doing good work, and some of the things they're helping people with are Anthony's tools because they get from him. And then people use some of them, like lemon water in the morning. That's from Anthony, and that's been around for decades. I did that at one point, but I didn't know it was from Anthony. If I'd known it was from Anthony, then I would have been able to look at, oh, this really helps me, makes me feel better. What else does he have to say? So it's good to know the source. It's really important to cite the source and know that if you're going off in all kinds of other directions with your healthcare, you're dabbling. And what does it mean to dabble? Dabbling is to do something in a casual, superficial way. Now, I dabble with the types of brands of clothes I like to wear, or maybe the clean skincare routines that I have. I will dabble there, but I will not dabble with my health and my wellness. Part of what we hope to do in outing some of these trends and traps today is to explain how you can use your discernment going forward to make sure you don't get caught in a trap again. How long has this been around? Like, let's say cold plunging. Do you think our ancestors ever got in cold water? Probably. They probably got in cold water. So how long has this been around? Is the trend just dressed up in new clothes with a new name? So like a diet that's been here before and now it's just got a new fancy name with a bunch of money and marketing behind it. And so now everybody thinks, oh my gosh, well, actually, if you've lived and been around for a few decades, you've seen that come and go and not help anybody before. That's number one. Has this been around before? Number two is this healing the chronically ill? We don't want to see young influencers who really don't have any health issues and are saying, look at how much energy I have. Well, you're 25. You've never had any health problems. Maybe you had a little bit of acne, but that's it. You've never been bedridden. You've never had this. You've never had that. We're looking at these alpha influencers and we're deciding that those are the people that we should be listening to about our health. So that's another thing. That's number 2. Who are these people? And are they alpha influencers? Number 3, if this is something that has claims behind it, where's the community? Where's the community of people that are saying, here's me before, here's me after, here's the health conditions I've healed? And that's what we need to look through, and not just, like Carolyn said, paid bots that are going through and making comments. Go look and investigate those comments and see, are those real people who actually have healed something significant? So this is a really important topic for me too, because I have been down the road of so many traps, Candace. Like, you wouldn't believe it. I've been played so many times by even the natural health industry.
Mm-hmm. So many points, Tamika, that you're making. I was like, yeah. Why is it that we just jump so quickly onto the bandwagon of quick fixes? Why are we so wanting that as a source of, an avenue to heal? When you're talking about, 1, 2, 3, when we're looking at the sources of this, where this information is coming from, why are we so willing to disregard all of that and just jump on the next big trend in hopes that it will heal us quickly? A quick fix.
I mean, I really noticed that. I ask myself that question all the time, because it's harder work to give your child cucumber juice to bring the fever down. You might be having to do that over a 12-hour period rather than giving this particular Tylenol or whatever it is that is going to fix it immediately, right? So it's harder in a way to have to do the work in a way that's healthy and healing and takes a bit more time, right? Like, it isn't going to give you immediate results. Like Tamika said, though, some people on the medical medium protocols do celery juice for 3 weeks and they clear their acne, like boom. So it does have that effect. However, I think we are in a culture so driven by adrenaline and so driven by immediate quick fixes. And I've seen it in my own family, and I'll be like, can we pause? Can we just pause and look at what we could do to help this situation instead of jumping on this is going to give us the fix right away? I think it's programmed into us. It's hard to sit in the discomfort. It's hard to not know what's wrong and have to be like, wow, I got to let this symptom flare up first to figure out what I'm going to do about it. It's hard.
But we have the tools and support from Anthony William to know what to do when we have these flare-ups now. And I'm just so excited for us to share all of this information today. So into the topic of health fads, Tamika, you said you've been played. You've gone down the path of all the different trends. And so can you bring us up to speed on some of these health fads and trends that you've participated in, and what the results were and why they never really stuck?
Yeah, I've been played. I was listening to Neil Diamond's Play Me the other day. Candace, this might be before your time, but your parents might have listened to it. And I thought, this is such a poetic song. It's such a beautiful play me. But getting played by the healthcare system or the natural healthcare system is not pretty, poetic, or fun. It is so stressful. There's so many items, but one of them would be one that comes to mind right now, because I know that with Anthony's work, I'm getting rid of heavy metals from my body. And I continue to do that because they impact a lot of health conditions, the cause of Alzheimer's and dementias and all kinds of things like that. We're all exposed to heavy metals. So at one point, I was told by a very good practitioner, she's amazing. She helped me in a lot of other ways, but I was instructed to take chlorella. And people, I think, still are taking chlorella for heavy metal detox today. And what it does is, we know from Anthony that it just picks up the metals and dumps them somewhere else, usually right beside the problematic area. You can have metals in your liver, you can have metals in your organs, your thyroid, your brain. Like, metals are running through your body. They can be deep in the body, and a blood test won't tell you if they're in your liver. That's just telling you if it's in your blood. So you can't just say like, oh, I don't have any. Everybody has some metals because they're in the environment. But I was taking chlorella, and when I would take it, within a couple of hours, my lips would swell and I get this swollen lip. And I didn't actually put it together. I didn't know, why is my lip swelling periodically? Like, I didn't connect it to the supplement until I was in like about a month into it. And this is pretty significant because not only is it sloppy at doing its job of moving metals around, doesn't get them out of the body, it's often contaminated and contains bad bacteria as well. So it was actually making me sicker. It wasn't just that it was being sloppy, it was actually making the problem worse, and it was making me sicker. And I didn't know that at the time, because when I say at that moment, I wasn't dealing with, debilitating health issues like I was 10 years later when I started to have anaphylaxis and a bunch of other things. But I was, I was impacted by it without even knowing I shouldn't have been doing it. That's one of many.
Of course.
Yeah.
Carolyn, do you have any experience with health trends?
Yeah. I'm so passionate about this. I'm like, people need to understand what's happening to them when they do these things. I can't say that I ever did apple cider vinegar, but it has trended and then come back. And from what I understand, people not only drink apple cider vinegar, but they will take apple cider vinegar supplements even to try to get that into their body. And so I was always curious, what's the deal with that? And recently I was in a juicing place and I was looking at these little juices that they had, take this for rejuvenation or take this for a cold symptom coming on. It's the deep immune one. And so I was reading some of the ingredients, and probably 3 out of 6 of them had apple cider vinegar in it. And I was, nope, not eating that. Nope, not eating that, not eating that. So I felt empowered to know from Anthony, okay, this is not healthy at all. In general, no matter what type of vinegar you have, because we have apple cider vinegar, it does have more nutrients. It's got like the mother inside. It's an apple, which we know is healthy for us. That doesn't take away the fact that it's still vinegar. And vinegar dehydrates our cells. It actually draws water out of our cells and organs. Can you imagine? And just like it turns a cucumber into a pickle, it can pickle your organs. And the other thing I learned was it's acetic acid. And when you put this acetic acid into your system, calcium has to kind of run to the rescue to buffer the acid, and that actually erodes your teeth. So where does it get the calcium from? It gets the calcium from your teeth, so the enamel, and from your bones. Can you imagine? And Anthony says if you have this immediate relief, because people talk about it relieving acid reflux, they talk about it helping with their digestion. There's reasons that it helps in the very short term. Mucus forms in your stomach to kind of protect you from the vinegar, so that can actually make your digestion feel smoother. However, over time, it's ruining your stomach glands. So a lot of these health trends can have a slight immediate improvement, but over time, you're going to get a lot worse. So, hey, you can use vinegar in positive ways if you have dandruff or if you want to do a foot bath, and you can use apple cider vinegar to help disinfect something and get the pus out. Or Anthony says you can put it on a cloth and put it on your face if you have acne that's really painful. But ingesting it is never going to be a good idea. And in general, vinegar is not good for us. So that means in our ketchup, in our mustard, in our mayonnaise, in all the things that have vinegar, our fermented foods, are all these vinegar things. In general, they're not good for us. So, I try to limit the pickles.
Pickles are trending right now. I feel like dill pickles are just trending.
I didn't know that.
No. I feel like I just
shave them on your burger or something.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Putting them on fries, like dill pickled fries, like all sorts of things.
Mm-hmm.
But that's so interesting, Carolyn, because immediately when you're starting to talk about vinegars, I know that I brought this up to you guys before, was this fire cider, which is basically like a tonic that you create at the beginning of a cold and flu season to help alleviate symptoms throughout the colder months. So we're talking like putting, I think, apple cider vinegar in with like horseradish, garlic, all sorts of different things to ferment, and then taking a bit of that every single day to help build up your immunity or help to fight off any sort of flus, colds, etc. Now, my understanding is that this is something that has been around for decades, if not centuries. So it's so interesting to me that, yes, We've talked about how there's these quick little trends, but also what about these things that perhaps have been passed down from generation to generation, and now we've got the tools to understand that they are maybe a little bit more destructive than they are helpful for our bodies.
Yeah. It's really interesting with fermented foods because it's a good example of something that's been passed down. Like I think sauerkraut and fermentation of foods started in China, but it went and got popular in Germany. My father is German. I have really great memories of my father and his brothers making sauerkraut in the basement at my uncle's house. And it was this cultural thing, and it was this, like, just to see all these men doing this project together was really cool. And in general, fermented food overall isn't going to hurt most people, but it's very actually difficult for people that have sensitive guts. If people have a sensitive system, some people get really bloated, they get gastric issues, they might get nausea, they might feel a little drunk from it because it's fermenting, right? So it's almost like making wine. So there's a lot of different symptoms that can come up for sensitive people. Other people it might pass through their system because they're not sensitive and they might be fine with eating fermented foods. But you have to know, why is this? Why was this so important to the Chinese and to the Germans? Because they didn't have refrigeration. So they would have died if they didn't have fermented foods. So they took the cabbage or the radish or whatever it was and fermented it so that they could actually eat over the winter or over the months that they didn't have refrigeration. So I think this is where Anthony really tunes us into what is the energy of that food? Decay. The energy of that food is decay and death. You would be so much better if you want to fight cold and flu to focus on healing, living foods that are full of life. They're alive. They have elevated biotics on them. They are living things to help thrive and live, not to eat things that are in a state of decay unless you have to. If you have no other choice but to eat those foods because you're going to starve, then they're a really good thing. But it's such a good question, Candace, because a lot of people get caught up in this, well, it's ancient, so it works. And first of all, we are dealing with so many symptoms and conditions in our culture today that weren't there hundreds of years ago, first of all, because they're proliferating now because of a lot of different factors. And we can get into some of that at some point if you want, but we're not in the same health situation that we were hundreds of years ago. So that's one reason why ancient doesn't always work. But the other thing is that we don't have any evidence to say that that was making health conditions go away. Like, think about all the serious health conditions of the past. Health conditions were still rampant in the past just because it's old. You know, oil pilling is one of the things that comes to mind. Carolyn, I don't know if you were going to talk about this, but...
No, I was thinking about even the cod liver thing that you told me about.
Yeah. Well, oil pilling is interesting because you coat the inside of your mouth with oil to pull out toxins. I'm not sure why you think that's going to do that, but somehow that's an ancient practice. And it actually suffocates the tissue inside of your mouth. So your gums, your teeth, all the tissue, all the very important tissues in your mouth get suffocated. Because you can imagine like something living and thriving and trying to help you, just coating it with oil. When you think about it like that, this is what it is with all of Anthony's techniques and tools. They make practical sense. I don't want to eat something that has the energy of decay in it and death. I want to eat something alive and fresh and that's going to nourish my cells. I was at a friend's place and saw in their refrigerator a jar of kimchi recently. And that thing smelled up the whole fridge for one thing. But for two, it was in a cheap plastic container, which it's fermented, right? So it's fizzy. So it's leaching plastic. Okay. So let's say, all right, well, it's okay then if it's in glass. Well, the radish and the cabbage or whatever they use to make the kimchi is totally in a state of rot. it's rotting, and it's got natural flavors, not good for you, citric acid, which is either GMO corn or black mold. That's what that is. It isn't some beautiful essence of a lemon, citric acid in it, and a whole bunch of things I couldn't pronounce. And I thought these people might be thinking, I don't know if they're thinking, maybe they just like the taste. That could be, because maybe it tastes really good to them. They think it's a health food. It's a food. And like the levels of problems with that food, it's not food. It's just radioactive garbage at this point. That's what I think.
Yum, yum.
I've got a couple of thoughts here. I think I am one of these people that social media is completely influencing me. So some of these things that you're talking about, Tamika, I have to admit, they're coming across and I'm buying it. They're coming across my feed and I'm buying it. And so I've been that kimchi person. And I've been...
That's okay.
Yeah. And so the thing that I wanted to talk to you about too is that I love Anthony Williams' approach because of the no shame. I keep on seeing where he talks about where you can, if you can. And I just love when he says those things because it's an invitation and I don't feel like it's just such a strict, hard, do this, do that. And yeah, when he has this invitational language, it feels more like I want to take that approach and try the different foods and things that he's suggesting. Now, you did also mention, this awful plastic container that's leaching with the kimchi. And it kind of got me thinking about the actual materials that we interact with in our kitchen and in our everyday lives. And here I am as like a person that's on social media, and I'm seeing a lot of talk about cast iron and stainless steel and using these things in our kitchen as healthy means to cook our food. What can you tell us about Anthony Williams and his thoughts about these sorts of things in our kitchen?
This one's yours, Tamika.
Is it? Okay. So we use ceramic. Again, we don't dabble. We don't go to different sources for our health. We dabble with other things, but not with health and well-being. We use Anthony's recommendation, which is ceramic. A couple of brands that come to mind are Green Life or Green Pan. And you want a ceramic coating on those pans. That's what we primarily use. I don't think stainless steel is necessarily a problem unless you're seeing scrape marks and scratch marks. If you're starting to see things look like they're like getting scraped up, then where is that going? That's going like directly into you and your family's food. So if things are looking really worn, then you want to replace those. But we use mostly ceramic cookware. And that's because we don't want metals in our bodies. Metals connect with each other. So you've heard of this before, that there's an alloy, a metal alloy, and it's a number of different metals all bunched together. And so I don't want a clump of that in my brain impacting the neuron that wants to fire. And that's one of the places, not the only place, but one of the places that metals go is into our brains. And so that's why now we don't use any aluminum foil in our household. We use natural parchment paper, like a good brand of parchment paper instead for everything. And turns out, like once in a while, we'll use saran wrap. If something's cool, then we might wrap it. Plastic is also problematic, but it's maybe a little easier to get out of the body, to flush out of the body than metal. I just watched someone the other day wrap something green and leafy in tin foil. I was having a full visceral reaction. This is going to sound so weird to your listeners because what is her problem? But when you know, when you know that it's causing dementia and Alzheimer's down the road, the medical industry has no answers for this. Anthony does, and it makes sense. Like, why is one person's Alzheimer's, they're running away? And why is another person's Alzheimer's, they're completely catatonic? Why does one person remember this and not remember that? Well, obviously there's a disease progression, but it's also because it depends on which metals and alloys are in their brain and in which part of their brain. So maybe one person doesn't recognize any of their family. The other person, like my mom did when she had Alzheimer's, was eating the crayons out of the crayon tub. It's really important to know some of these things, and metals in the kitchen is one thing that is definitely good for people to know. It's amazing what parchment paper can do. It can do everything. And even if you're like, I don't know if I believe this spirit of compassion, Anthony William, I don't know. Well, then why not just do it anyway? If it's just as easy, just get the aluminum out, because just in case, and if you do have to touch aluminum or a battery, batteries have metals on them. You have oils on your skin. So when you touch that battery, wash your hands after. If you have to touch anything with metals. When I'm walking my dog Nova, there's these grates on the road that are all rusted. And I try to keep her little paw pads off those rusty, metally, like I just kind of steer her away. But if you know, you know. And so if you know, you are protected.
One thing too, Tamika, that I just also love about the medical medium community is that people are so willing to share alternatives. I was talking about my social media being an influx of all these trends and trying to play me, but there's also the flip side where there is the medical medium communities sharing all of this goodness too. And back to like the kitchen stuff, I remember you sharing about your knives getting sharpened. And so just having the awareness of, remember there was like almost like a sediment of the metal that was left on after the wonderful gentleman sharpened your knives. And if you weren't so aware, or maybe you wouldn't have thought otherwise about these little shards and cutting your food with that and these pieces breaking off and then ingesting them. So interesting. What I've really come to learn from you guys sharing with me, which I just love, is cooking with oil and it not being necessary. And how, you can use water. You can cook things with water. There's just these things that have become ingrained into our thought process and our way of cooking and sharing and all of that we just don't even question. It's become the norm. So we just do without truly thinking about its effect on our bodies. And so my next questions is the medical medium protocols. Why have you stuck with them? How have they, come to play into every aspect of your life?
I think about Tamika saying she doesn't dabble. And I think the reason is when you find something that works, you stay with it. Like there's results, there's a feeling of wellness, there's a disappearing of symptoms over time. And there's a vitality. There's this healthy feeling that comes about. So to me, that is why I would be not trying other things. This is the thing that actually works. And you have a cold coming on and you take some of the supplements and the cold is gone within 24 hours. There's so many results. For me, it's about the results that are seen immediately and the feeling of health that I have when I'm eating the healing foods, when I'm, minimizing some of these trends and fads, or when I'm just cleansing and noticing that I feel so much healthier and alive when I do these things.
Yeah. And it's interesting because it's not just physical health, it's also mental health. So people that are dealing with brain fog, I had brain fog for a period of time before I had discovered Anthony's work. And it got so bad. I might have said this on the first podcast, our fruit podcast. I don't know if I did, but it got so bad that I couldn't do the taxes with Carolyn anymore. That executive functioning and math's always stressed me out, but I was still able to do other things, but I couldn't do that. And when that scared me, and having a mom that had Alzheimer's, and that really frightened me. Then I started the protocols. When I'm on medical medium's way of eating, I don't have brain fog. I don't have it. It's not the same at all. Now, I also want to say some people might meet me and go, like, you have health problems. Like, how can you be? I'm not a poster child because I don't do it perfectly every single day. I do it consistently, but sometimes in the evening, I'll eat more fats than I wish I would have, or I will have chocolate once in a while, which doesn't agree with me. It's not a health food. And I have to keep calling in like my free will and the angel of free will. I'll ask the angel of free will to please help me not do this. But and we also have exposures to things in everyday life. I'm almost out of a 2-year exposure to copper in my water. And so I didn't know what I didn't know at the beginning of that. And so that was creating some health issues. It's not just all what you eat, it's also what you're exposed to. There's perfumes when you go places that are full of toxic chemicals. Some of the medications that people take have toxins in them alongside whatever they're getting to help them. They may have other agents and things inside of them that aren't good for them. So we're not perfect. We don't do this perfectly. I want to just pinpoint that because I don't do it perfectly, but I do it consistently. Without doing this, I am 100% confident I would be dead. I wouldn't be here.
Are you or someone you love dealing with symptoms and conditions that keep resurfacing? Do you miss the vitality and energy you once had? Have you given up hope that true healing is possible? The growing health challenges we face in our world today can feel scary and overwhelming. We understand, and we want you to know that you're not alone. Davidtree's guided community cleanse course is led by experienced therapists Tamika Schilbe and Carolyn Burke, who have been studying and using the medical medium tools for almost a decade with remarkable results. They designed this course to help you implement the revolutionary work of Anthony William in a way that works best for you. If you're ready to transform your healing through the power of healing foods, the guided community cleanse will help you make lasting changes with the support of a caring community. Visit davidtree.com, that's DEVATREE.com, to learn more and make this your healing breakthrough year.
And so again, this is the discernment. When you think, ooh, this is a health thing, go to the people that are bed bound, the people on mattress island or couch island because they can't move around, the people that can no longer walk properly. Don't go to the young alpha influencers to get your health advice, because if it works for them, it's because they already have a level of health. It's not actually working for them. It's just their natural state of health that they're already in. You want to look to someone that's actually been sick and recovered. There are proven things that you can do to get out of the health issues that you're dealing with. There is a pathway if you choose to go down it. And you don't have to have a certain type of eating in order to go down that path. Like say you're into keto or paleo or something like that. There's good parts of both of those and there's bad parts of both of those types of eating, but you can just use the parts of the medical medium tools that work for you. So it's adaptable too.
I love that point, Tamika, because that's what I was going to move on to next is how would you encourage people who are looking to maybe test out the waters a little bit with Anthony Williams protocols? How would you help them to create sustainable habits instead of just chasing these trends like we had talked about?
I would say start with one thing. Start small, start with something manageable, like lemon water in the mornings on an empty stomach to help your liver. Celery juice is something you can start on. Morning routine, like just choose one little thing, and it can be based on what you're struggling with. If you're struggling with acne, you might want to try celery juice, right? Because there's been so much help that people receive from those trace minerals and from driving out the bugs in your body, the viruses that are feeding and creating acne, which is really related to strep. So like there's lots of things that you can just say, I want to try this one little thing, and then pay attention and notice if it makes a difference.
Would you say that consistency is key in seeing results from some of these protocols?
I mean, that's kind of like the opposite of the fads, right? It's not something that comes and goes. You keep at it, and you start to see changes. So I would say that. What about you, Tamika?
Yeah, I mean, his information never contradicts itself. So 10 years later, 20 years later, 30 years later, he's not saying different things. Like, you do this and you are going to have a steadfast way to keep your health in a good place. And if you aren't dealing with symptoms and conditions yet, I don't think there will be anybody that eventually won't. In the level of toxicity we have in our world and what's happening with the food and just everything, and then the viral explosion, I don't think there's anyone that can really escape at some point having some health challenges. But we'll see, if you start whatever you can do of the protocols now, you can potentially prevent some of that from coming later. And you will hear that we've talked about oils and fats a little bit. So when I say sometimes I'll eat fats at night, well, maybe I had more nuts or seeds than I should have. So the reason for that is because your liver doesn't like a lot of fats. And at night, your liver's cleaning itself out. It's doing all this super hard work for you. Man, it's like an overworked mother who is basically run ragged from trying to do every single thing right for you and keep you alive and keep you going. And one of the things that Anthony says, and I hope I get this right, in the Liver Rescue book, which I highly recommend, it's an amazing read. Right at the beginning, he talks about how the liver, imagine that you're going somewhere really special and you have like a white crisp suit on, and then someone takes a bucket of oil and just throws it on you right before you have to go. Well, then you, instead of doing the stuff you were going to do, your liver has to actually go get dressed again. It has to deal with all this oil and clean it all up and work so hard to clean it up. And then there's a new thing, like there's a new just environmental toxin, or there's a new something it has to deal with, or you've ate something that's not helpful to you. So it has to deal with that. But every time you eat oil in the morning while it's trying to clean up the mess from the night before, it's like, okay, you got the new shirt on, you got the oil off. Then you eat something else. Like then you're having bacon for breakfast. It's still trying to flush for you from the night before. You just dumped another pail of oil on that white crisp shirt that it just cleaned off. So anyway, the story is really great in Liver Rescue at the beginning, but it tells you just what it feels like to be that toiling mother who is just working for you all the time and struggling, and it can't get ahead of itself because the kid keeps dumping oil on their clothes. They're ready to go to school, and you just can't get them out the door. And that's what your liver feels like when you're eating oil in the morning. So, and then there's these fads where it's like, put a bunch of peanut butter in your smoothie for protein, dump a bunch of oil, like straight up oil in the morning. Oh my gosh. Like these fads are not to be taken lightly. They're hurting your poor mother inside.
That is so interesting. And I just love how you were so theatrical with your explanation, because that's one of the things that I also love about Anthony, his Instagram lives, and just being able to explain things in a way that we can understand. Like just you talking about this liver rescue story about, the white suit and the oil, it puts it into perspective, because I know that we've talked about this before, but in our society, in our culture, we legitimize science so much. And so sometimes we think that when we're being thrown all the scientific information and data and wording, it legitimizes it. That's obviously not always the case. And there are alternative means in discussing and helping people understand.
It totally makes me think, Candace, when you say it's kind of made into this knowledge base, there's like this kind of mystery about it. It makes me think about microdosing and how that's a fad that I'm very interested in, because I work in the field of addiction as a counselor, and people will often say, but what do you think about this? Like if I microdose this to help heal my depression, would that work? And I think this links to what you're saying. It has an air of science to it. Well, dosing must mean that it's quite specifically decided how much needs to go, and how it's just kind of got this feeling of it. Like we think of dose, a medical medium says it's like we think of people overdosing, or we think about the dose that the doctor prescribes. So it has this kind of air about it that it's going to be safe. But yet when you're microdosing a toxin, it's still a toxin, right? It's still going to have a toxic effect on your body. So if it's a mushroom or a frog or toad poison or ayahuasca, and it's also got this idea of it being plant medicine. So that means it's got that ancient thing to it where we're like, oh, well, it must be safe. It's what we say when it's something that's actually not really good for you in large or small doses, but we're going to dress it up in this word to make it feel like, well, it's ancient, so it's going to be okay for you. The thing of it is, it isn't. And it's quite toxic to your body. And what happens is like a whole bunch of adrenaline gets dumped into your body to deal with this drug or this toxic substance. And it can actually feed addiction when you have this kind of rush of adrenaline. And the other thing I learned, which was fascinating to me, is, there's a lot of spiritual awakening that's associated with these plant medicines or microdosing, like psilocybin. Is that how you call it? Psilocybin? Yeah, like those kind of things that are more of a psychedelic version. What actually is happening is it's like being in a car accident and you survive a car accident, you spiritually change after that. You've gone through a process of surviving something and you walk away and you're like, holy cow, I almost died. I survived that. Like I'm a new person. And so in a way, that's what's happening when you're microdosing a psychedelic. You're surviving your body, dealing with a major toxin. And so then there's this kind of spiritual element that comes into it because you actually did survive death. What do you think of that?
Makes me think of ayahuasca too, and the journeys that a lot of our good friends, like our beloved people, have gone on ayahuasca journeys. It's really something in the yoga world, right?
So my thoughts about the ayahuasca thing are when I went to university, and just even in higher education, it being almost a point of interest. I remember in a sociology class, and one of my profs inviting their brother, who was an archaeologist and had an ayahuasca experience in Peru, and just having him as a special guest in the classroom and explaining his experience. It has this kind of draw to it because, again, it's the ancient thing. It's the wow factor that they experienced something spiritually that had an effect, a positive effect that was spiritually profound. And so it's just so interesting that these things are weaved into all aspects of our education system and our culture and all the things.
There's people in the medical medium community who have said that they were okay for their first, they were okay for their second, and their third, they had major health issues after their third ayahuasca trip. And exactly what Carolyn's saying, I think about friends telling us about their experience. You're vomiting in a room of people, you're pooping like the entire time, like you put your body in major crisis to get that spiritual awakening. Some people, maybe they can handle it, but how do you know if that's not going to push you over the edge? Like your liver has to clean that shit up. Your liver is already overworked and it has to deal with the fallout of that. So, but what you're saying makes so much sense from Anthony, Carolyn, about you've just survived hell overnight. Like you've all been awake, like shitting yourself all night and throwing up together. And you've survived. Like there's going to be a huge adrenaline and like rebirth with even that, but at what cost? And I think that's the question. It makes me think of bone broth. I mean, are we kind of going off that trend, or is it still going strong? Is bone broth still going strong?
I think my daughter told me she saw a whole thing on it that she was like, oh yeah, people are still doing that.
Jesus. Okay. So God help us all. I mean, that's adrenaline soup. That is, we know from Anthony that, you feel a high after you drink bone broth because it's adrenaline soup. Animals know when they're getting slaughtered that they're going to die. So what are they producing? They're producing a chemical concoction in their bodies, in their bones, and you are drinking that the impact of their death. And that's why you get a little bit of something. It's not that the effect isn't there, but the impact on your adrenals, again, you're pushing your adrenals to do something they don't want to do. And so it might give you some temporary benefits, but it's the long-term stuff that's really problematic, like cold plunging, Carolyn.
Oh my goodness.
Like same.
The adrenaline that you're putting your body through. I mean, when I learned about this from Anthony, I was fascinated to hear it's like you're submerging yourself in ice cold water. So it's not just like a little bit on your arm or on your hand. You're actually submerging yourself. And what it's telling your body is alert, alert, fight or flight, fight or flight. We're in the Alps and we're going to die. We just been in a plane crash, right? So what happens? Your adrenaline surges 85 to 90%. Your adrenaline surges through your body to prevent you from going into hypothermia. So yes, if you're an athlete, you're in tip-top shape and you just got off the field and you want to do a little plunge, that might not have an effect. But if you're struggling with fatigue, you're struggling with brain fog, you have vertigo, like you have any of these symptoms, you're only going to make them worse because you're basically frying your adrenal glands by constantly going underwater. If you want to use an ice pack, that's a whole different story. Because if you're using an ice pack, you're putting cold on one particular part of your body and you're communicating to your body to say this part is sore, and you remove the ice pack and your immune system rushes to that part of your body to start helping repair the injury. But submerging yourself in cold plunging is really taxing to your adrenals. I think about this adrenaline thing. It wears down your immune system. It wears down your white blood cells. And of course, it leads to adrenal fatigue. over time. So in the immediate, this rush feels great. Like you said, Tamika, you get this adrenaline rush and you might have like a little woo woo, but that does not last.
And it goes back to, are you going to dip your 9-month-old in cold water if they have a fever? Are you going to dip the whole thing in an ice bucket? What about your 90-year-old grandma? Why don't you shove her in Lake Huron in the winter and see if she gets better from her dementia? Like, honestly, it's not a health practice. It also shows us how we are living in times of personal extreme. Like the extreme thinking, I don't know if it's from these action movies we watch or if it's just from media or what it is, but we think that we have to do something so extreme in order to heal ourselves. And when people go after Anthony, it's so amazing to me because basically he's just saying, eat fruits and vegetables. That's basically what he's saying. Like, it's crazy that people can go after that as though, yeah, it's just insane to me.
Well, and also let's get to the root of why you have these issues in your body. Let's get to the root of why you're struggling with your health. Isn't that sound normal that you would want to find out why? This whole trend, I want to bring up this other one, colostrum. I don't know if this is still a trend, but we know colostrum is the first milk. I know it's the first milk from any kind of...
Sorry.
I know, like what? Well, people eat colostrum because they think it is very nutrient dense. It's the first milk of a human or for the calf, for the baby calf. And yet the thing is, it's like butter, dairy, all those things, but it's 100% more. It's more nutrient dense than, let's say, milk or butter. And we know that dairy feeds the viruses that are in our body. So that's why we try to limit the dairy that we have. So if you're having colostrum, you're actually giving it more nutrient-rich dairy and feeding more of the bugs in your body. And why do we not want to feed the viruses? Because the viruses have neurotoxins or dermatoxins that it releases. The viruses poop, and that's circulating through our system and also causing problems. And the viruses feed on the heavy metals. So like all of this information is so helpful. This is why I wouldn't have colostrum.
Not even just to mention the ethical piece that it's kind of bubbling up in me. I'm like, we're taking this colostrum from
the babies. It isn't, I mean, but you know what, if it was like super amazing and had all these healing benefits, you could maybe wrap your head around some of the ethical dilemmas in it, but it doesn't. It's not helping. It's actually making you worse.
I just thought it was so interesting that now when we're talking about these extreme, these extremities, not extremities. When we're talking about these extreme trends, I feel like it gets pushed out and everyone jumps on board. The cold plunging, the intermittent fasting. And then it's not that we hear about all of the things that are negative, that haven't served people, but I'm hearing about the differences between men and women. So now it's like, well, men can definitely cold plunge, but women, because of our hormones, I'm hearing that there's like maybe differences in regards to that. When it comes to the intermittent fasting, it's like men have, they're able to go for longer periods without eating. It feels like the goals are always shifting. And so I think it's so interesting when we're talking about these extreme health fads and trends and how it never is concrete in the evidence. It's always shifting a little bit.
Totally. I mean, even just when you mention the difference between men and women are by far more affected by chronic illness. So It's true that men can sometimes tolerate for a period of time. It'll catch up to them too. But isn't there some crazy statistic that, Tamika, around women having chronic illness, it's big?
Women are 4 times more likely to have an autoimmune issue than men. And autoimmune, I have to do this. I'm putting this in air quotes if you're listening to this on audio. Autoimmune, which has never been proven, is actually growing at an annual rate of 3 to 13% annually. So that's every year it's increasing. So we can expect that like 10, 20 years from now, we'll be so much younger and getting these autoimmune issues. If we follow what they're telling us now, it's just rampantly expanding to more and more people. And it does, in fact, affect women more than men. And that's mainstream telling us that. And Anthony says that all the time and has been saying that forever, that we are going to see more health issues. And it's almost like it's normal to have health issues now.
These conversations are always so interesting. They put forward this health trend, but then there's always like the goals are moving, and then it's like a different, they differentiate so heavily between men and women. And then the goalpost is always changing. And it's hard to know when something is rooted in integrity and will benefit us wholeheartedly without having to constantly fear that we need to change course. You know what I mean?
I really think that's important.
And I think one thing that I'm constantly seeing on my social media feeds too, I'm sorry, I'm heavily relying on that, is the whole piece about vitamins and fish oils and omega-3s. And what can you say about Anthony William and vitamins? And then maybe, I don't know, Tamika, if you can go on a little bit about fish oil and what that does for our health.
Yeah. So multivitamins are not a good idea because they have such a minor amount of often bad quality supplements with a ton of ingredients in them. So it's not enough quantity of any of the particular ingredients that you need. It's much better to use a single supplement type. And then you want to just make sure that it doesn't have a lot of fillers in it. You want to make sure the company is ethical. They can put 10% undisclosed ingredients in these supplements. And so there's a lot of things that could be harmful in that. You want to make sure there's no natural flavors, no citric acid in those supplements, and no oils. You want it to be as pure as possible. Vimergy is a Vimergy is a really good brand. You want to make sure there's no alcohol in your supplements too. That's one of the first things I did when I found Anthony's work, is I dumped a whole bunch of my supplements that either had desecrated animal parts in them or with no health value, or they had a bunch of alcohol in tinctures. So you want to get rid of that. So your question about fish oil is interesting because, well, fish is not as bad as fish oil, but fish have mercury in them. Anthony says that if you go to a smaller fish like mackerel, anchovies, and sardines, they have less mercury in them. So mercury is problematic. It's one of those things that really messes with our brains and our health overall. So if you don't want to ingest mercury, then go for smaller fish. It's not the worst thing to eat fish because the mercury isn't usually in the muscle of the fish. It's in the oil fat of the fish. So fish oil is basically extracting the fat out of the fish. And so it's a concentrated form of mercury that you're getting when you're ingesting fish oil. People know some of this because women who are pregnant often are told not to eat fish because of the baby's developing brain and nervous system. And it's because of the mercury in the fish. So this is where it gets really interesting. But now you should eat fish. Well, yeah, the muscle meat mercury isn't as bad as the concentrated, basically super mercury or methyl mercury that you'll get in fish oil. But I used to do all of this. So there is no judgment in anyone that's doing any of these things. I can picture my lemon lime flavored fish oil in my fridge at one point and my pomegranate flavored fish oil. And I took it and I was like, oh my God, it tastes so good. I'm doing something so good for me. I had no idea that I was going to contribute to my brain fog, my health issues, all that stuff by taking that. And it's like so many things we've talked about here today. Like I've taken bentonite clay. That's a disaster. I've been played so many times and done that with my wallet and my energy and my enthusiasm. And we just want to help people. It's almost like there's nothing more important in this time that we're in than keeping our health intact, or as much as we can, keeping our spirits and our health and our mental wellness at the highest level it can be.
I love that, Tamika. I feel like there should almost be like a part 2 to this conversation. Do you know what I mean? There's so many different things that we could go over, the health trends, because they've existed since the dawn of time. And we can definitely dissect them through Anthony Williams' lens of what really is impactful for us health-wise. Thank you so much for sharing this conversation, you two. I'm just so excited because I think that having this conversation together inspires me always to take that step and try, even if it's just one little thing, to steer myself into the right direction when it comes to my health and my well-being. This leads me to say that I'm just so excited for what Davidtree has coming up next, and that is our guided community cleanse course. Can you guys maybe just inform us a little bit about how this course is going to unfold and what it will look like for folks?
Yes. And it's a chance for you to cleanse with your community. So we're going to be going over all sorts of troublemaker things, how to prep for a cleanse. You get to choose a cleanse that's individualized to you and what you might be wanting to work on. So it might be, I want to cut coffee out of my life. I want to start doing celery juice. It might be that I want to do a 9-day more intensive cleanse for my liver, but all of it is based on medical mediums information. And we find that people often get intimidated. Like, where do I start? Because there are, I think, 8 books. There's a lot to digest. And because Tamika and I have been doing this ourselves for almost a decade, we're really excited to help guide people and learn with them so that we can all create more health together.
It was kind of like deciding to do this was interesting because we wanted to create something together again and something for the community. And we were just like, you know what? There's nothing more important than this. There's no other direction we can take our energy that's more helpful to people right now and the things that they're struggling with. And we love our community and anyone who's listening to this. We're with you. We're with you if you've gotten played, if you're going to get played in the future, we're with you. We know what it's like to kind of muddle through and not know what to do next. And we also know what it's like to know what to do and not to do it because you just can't do it perfect. And so we don't expect that. I think what we are good at and experts at is group process. And so no one is an expert on the medical medium tools like Anthony and coming from Spirit of Compassion, but we are experts on group process. And so we really want to create a really safe process for people around cleansing and learning and integrating all this work and the nuance. There's a kitchen confidential part of it where you'll get to be in our kitchen with us and see it, little clips of us doing what we do and substituting things and cleansing. We'll do that with student self-determination in mind. So we're really excited too, Candace, and thanks for promoting that as well.
Of course, because it resonates, and I'm so excited because I feel like personally, this is the next step in what I need for going down this path of healing. And what better way to do it than with the peeps that you love, your community. So thank you so much, you guys, for creating this and always being the space where we can come together and explore these things together. So thank you.
Thanks, Candace, for always being willing to dive in and ask questions and bring this information to light in such a gentle way, but also powerful way, because you're passionate about this material as well. So thank you.
Your curiosity is inspiring, Candace. We love you.
You guys. We love you. We love you.
Love you.
Okay. Thanks, guys. Yay, you made it to the end of the Love Who You Are podcast. If you liked this episode, please subscribe and leave a review or text a friend and share the love. These small actions make a big difference in this realm, and we thank you. And we have a present for you, a guide to creating and sustaining a home practice. In this free video, 7 experienced wellness leaders share what it takes to overcome the struggle of creating a home practice in anything: yoga, meditation, journaling, or whatever you'd love to do more of. You don't want to miss the wisdom of these incredible women. You'll find your free gift at davidtree.com. That's DEVATREE.com. We'll see you next time, and know that you are loved.